Hey everybody, it's Harrison with 1 in 5, and welcome back to another episode. This time we're talking about coping mechanisms. Coping mechanisms are a really fundamental part of a lot of people's mental health journeys, and mine was no exception. The most important realization that I came to is that coping is not a negative term. There are examples of healthy and unhealthy coping mechanisms. Healthy coping mechanisms allow you to confront your mental health head on in a way that's constructive and promotes long term development. For example, exercising and working out allows you to feel good and is also good for your body, so it's sustainable in the long term. At the same time, there are examples of unhealthy coping mechanisms, which may provide some short term gratification but aren't sustainable in the long run. For example, sometimes I shut myself away from my friends, which can help me deal with my thoughts immediately, but in the long term, it's harmful to my relationships and isn't very sustainable. Anyway, it's important that we recognize that everybody's journeys with coping mechanism is different and everybody copes in different ways. To that extent, today's episode, we're talking with a friend of mine, a close friend of mine, about different ways that people deal with our stress and about different ways that people can find a balance between healthy and unhealthy coping mechanisms and how people can healthily cope with their mental health difficulties. So we hope that you enjoy today's episode. Hello, it's Harrison. Hello, it's Harrison, and I'm joined by.
I'm Teddy. I've known Harrison since third grade.
But today we're talking about coping mechanisms, which in my opinion, the word coping mechanism gets a really bad rep. Like people treat it like people are avoiding an issue or something, but we're here to show that's not really the case and that there's a distinction between healthy and unhealthy coping mechanisms. And to start, this is really on time because by around the time we're recording and posting this video, I had just written a blog post about bird watching, which for me is a type of coping mechanism. Uh, it's just something really simple. It's really simple, healthy. It doesn't impede on my life or anything, and I can do it in my own time. I can just look out the window or even go outside if the birds are feeling nice and won't fly away from me. And just being able to just being able to fill up a bird feeder and see birds and connect with nature. And the most important thing for me is that it doesn't feel like a job or anything. It's super relaxing. It's not competitive at all, obviously. And I just get to be in nature, be with birds, which are so beautiful. And that's not really a question, but if you two had to say like the activity that you do most, not even for like even personal improvement, even not even to compete or for school, just an activity you do purely for yourself and your own self enrichment.
Something that I do the most is like I either for like I guess if we're talking about like coping mechanisms, so that I can like ease my mind or like I don't know, like relax almost. I try to journal every day, whether it's digital or in hand. Um, yeah, that's what I try and do every day.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
Every day is really impressive, actually.
I try. I'm not always, not always.
Yeah, I started journaling for like the first I got up until like March and then for me it's probably not the same for you, but for me it kind of started to feel like a chore. And
Mm.
but I still love journaling and I think it's a great way to cope with your emotions, but also just like write your thoughts out on paper.
Oh yeah, for sure. It can definitely feel like a chore sometimes, but I think after I finish, I'm always like glad I did it. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
I feel like it's a chore.
How often do you think you like actually end up writing something that helps you?
Um, well, what I write about is usually different each time. Like help me, like like pretty often I would say. But I'm also not always like like sad, you know? Like sometimes I'm happy. So like so like
Sometimes I'm happy. Only sometimes, bro. Are you okay?
no, I'm kidding. But like I feel like I think it's most helpful when I'm in a bad state of mind, you know? But I'm always like, I think I always find myself like when I'm journaling, if I'm when I'm reflecting about my day, like learning something new about myself or like the way I talk to people or the way I act about a situation or the way I feel about something. I feel like I always learn something new about myself and like a place I can like get better at or like improve upon or like be less emotional or like be kinder or whatever whenever I'm reflecting upon my day. So I feel like it's always helpful. But sometimes, maybe sometimes it's not because I don't journal about like my day. I just journal about like whatever I want. But like I don't know.
And going to Priya, what would you, how would you answer the initial question of?
Well, I'm definitely not as consistent as Teddy is at journaling. I tried to be because I wanted to be like, I don't know, cool or whatever. And I think I do it like twice a year, actually. It's so awful. I think mainly what I do is I write a lot, but it's never like just like journaling about like my feelings. I'm usually when I'm like really sad or mad, I write poetry. I think I write my best pieces when I'm either really upset about like a certain dynamic with in like social situations or I'm really mad about like some injustice. I think that writing about it kind of in a more abstract way is more effective for me than journaling is, just because journaling I feel like it's like too like confrontational for me. Like I don't want to be talking about myself super directly. Doing it in that more abstract or artistic way kind of helps me like forces me to look at the problem like head on, but not like kind of be like attacking myself for any mistakes I make. And it's also just like art, and I think like again, my best pieces are made when I'm trying to work through these complex emotions. In that way, it's also something that other people can empathize with or like see themselves in, which I think is also very valuable to have a piece that's kind of like dynamic in the sense that it doesn't just apply to one person or one experience.
Yeah, I especially agree with like when you're talking about the like abstract aspect of it, not wanting to write too much about yourself. Because I feel it sometimes when I'm journaling, I feel I start to get like bashful that I'm writing too much about myself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
same.
Like even though nobody else is ever gonna read this and I'd like burn it before I'd let anybody else read it.
Yeah.
It's it still feels but it's kind of it's like old habits die hard. Like whenever you're writing for school, you're with it's with the knowledge that people are going to read it, but it still lets you be more like direct with your emotions, I think. So it's still really helpful.
Yeah. I mean, I think like being able to express your feelings abstractly is like very, very healthy and very like powerful because I think then it really is like you were saying, it can be helpful to other people, right? And not just yourself. But I guess with like journaling, like it is weird that you like write about yourself and you're like talking to yourself almost.
Yeah, yeah.
You can also find yourself just like um like being really mean to yourself, I guess. Or like really like pitiful or like God, I'm the worst, you know what I'm saying? But like I think it depends on the person because I think for me that's really helpful. I think I respond really positively to negative feedback. Um, so I feel like when I journal, sometimes it is just like if someone else would read it, they're like, you're really weird. Like, I don't know why you're just like being so rude to yourself. But I'm not I think it's not always about the exact words you put down and like what they say. It's about like what you get afterwards, you know? Like the clarity that you get after you write a paragraph about yourself or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's like a year later you can look back and it's like an archive of what you did throughout the day. It feels for me it feels like any day that I've journaled that I've written down and have an archive of it feels like that day has meant something and will continue to mean something. Like sometimes I feel, especially during the summer, the days just fly by. But if you journal about a day, it feels like something came out of that day, and you'll always have some connection to the day. So that's another reason that I love journaling.
I totally agree. I completely and totally agree with that. I feel like it makes I I feel like it like what you were saying about it makes the day special. Like I think that's one of the most important reasons why even when it feels like a task that I like to journal. because I can always look back and I can be like, that day was special for its own reason, you know? And it kind of like, I feel like it's really easy to like just have the days fly by and like you like feel like nothing matters, or you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, it's just another day. But I think journaling can really anchor yourself in the moment, and like it can bring you back to like a feeling of like being grateful for each and everything you have in that one moment. Because there's a lot of things we ignore, like our health or like our shelter or food or like family or friends, that like I think journaling allows me to anchor myself in the present moment and feel gratitude for those things. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now we've talked a lot about positives, and I think for all of us, journaling or even like writing for Priya in general, is an example of a healthy coping mechanism. It lets us express our feelings, have an archive of those feelings, and even though it's hard to not fully criticize yourself when you're writing, it's like it's an area of less criticism. But then branching kind of the opposite of that, uh, there's also examples that a lot of people face of unhealthy coping mechanisms of ways to deal with your emotions, with your mental health that isn't healthy in the long run or even in the short run, that may make you feel instant gratification, but prolonged, it does not really help with your mental health at all. And for me, sometimes I have the tendency, and I would call this a coping mechanism because it feels in the immediate, it feels like it helps me, but it at the end of the day, it makes me feel really sad and lonely, where I guess, alienate myself from my friends for periods of times when I'm feeling maybe stressed or anxious. And it'll like right before you're gonna hang out with your friends, it feels like, oh, it'd just be easier to stay at home. But then once you do it, once you get out and do it, it's so much fun. You have so much fun. So that's kind of the trade-off between the short-term immediate gratification and the long-term gratification that I think a lot of these unhealthy coping mechanisms dabble between. And then my question, branching that off into a question, do you guys have any examples of unhealthy coping mechanisms that you've either conquered and stopped doing, or that you continue to do, and why might that be? And it doesn't have to be anything super personal. It could be something like alienating your friends, or even eating junk food, for example.
I can start. I do the exact same thing you do, Harrison. I'm especially during the summers, I will go like months on end without like reaching out to friends or really like leaving my neighborhood or seeing anybody from school, which in some ways is nice for me because I like to get out of like I feel like a lot of the times, especially going to a private school where we go, we can kind of sometimes like live in a bubble. But I think I've definitely this year I've been um on runs with like people from my cross country team. And then one other thing I'm doing, because I do still have that like concern of like I want to be able to see like beyond kind of like the private school bubble sometimes, is I've been doing a lot of volunteering too to kind of like make me remember that it's not just like this small space that we're in. There's so much else going on outside of like just my friend group that I haven't seen or experienced anyway. So kind of just like forcing myself to leave the house and do stuff for other people has really helped me kind of like it's like going outside and touching grass, basically.
No, that's really I like how you kind of pointed out that it when you're faced with those feelings, there's kind of two options, like, or there are obviously more than two options, but the two that you discuss, like, you can alienate yourself or you can almost force yourself to go out and volunteer. And both, I guess both have their benefits, but I think one is much more healthier than the other, like getting out there. And I think sometimes it's easier to choose that short-term gratification, but it feels so much better. And in this case, for example, just going out with your friends or going out and touching grass.
Yeah, I mean, to try and answer your question, I think a lot of unhealthy coping mechanisms stem for that idea of like short-term gratification without thinking about the long term. I guess for me, like I would say like alienate myself, similar to you guys, like like just like trying to be alone, right? Like forcing yourself to be alone because like I don't know, because it just feels better that way when you're in a negative state of mind, I guess. Like or like you think it would be. But I don't think that always stems from being a negative coping mechanism. I also think it stems from like the issue that people have with like guilt to like reaching out, right? It's like you want to reach out to someone, talk about something, but you feel guilty, right? Because you don't want to burden them,
Yeah.
which I think that's like a totally separate topic. But I think a negative coping mechanism that I have is kind of like almost like sulking, just sitting with my feelings instead of like doing something about it, right? Like not journaling or even journaling too much. Like I think there's a difference between like for me, like journaling to get the emotion away and like to look at it from a different angle and journaling just to like feel bad about myself or like accentuate how bad my feelings are, how bad this situation is, right? So like I feel like if I'm not actively trying to like if my mindset isn't actively trying to like improve myself, right, for the long term, then I think my mechanism is negative. And there's also things like Harry said, like eating junk food or like I don't know, like other stuff like that that's like short term, not long term. But I think for me, it's just like sulking, honestly. Like I think that's my negative coping mechanism that I shouldn't do.
No, I'll
I will say I do think that that can be like helpful sometimes too, though, because I think one thing that like when people are giving you advice or like when you're going through a rough patch and people are giving you advice, they're always like just move on or focus on something else, and that can be helpful. But sometimes, like especially with like when you like take a big loss or something, like for me, the most helpful thing I do sometimes about it is just like I just cry. Like I like set a timer and I just cry. You don't
Yeah,
want to make sure you don't want to like kind of like grovel in it, but you do want to like give yourself time to feel your emotions.
I agree. I think there's a very fine line between like sitting with something for too long and not allowing yourself to feel it, right? Like I think it's very important to not like run from it, but like not let it drag you down, right? There's a difference there. And everyone has to find that on their own, I guess, depending on the situation.
yeah. And I think that connects to a broader point that coping mechanisms and just ways of dealing with mental health in general is so different person to person. What works and what's healthy for one person might be unhealthy for another person, and that's completely okay. And but it's also it's interesting to see how different people respond to the same situation. And but it's important to not judge each other based on how people respond. Because yeah, for me, for example, it I have a tendency to ruminate a lot, like overthinking about a situation that makes me sad or replaying something that's happened in my mind over and over again, which at first it can help me sort out my thoughts. It can help look at an issue from different angles, but at a point it just becomes obsessive. Like it's consuming my life and I'm spending most of the day thinking instead of doing it. I think just generally, it might work for other people. Like maybe other people uh just can think for hours and just like those people that can just be on a plane for the entire 11-hour plane ride and without anything. Like that would not work for me. I would start obsessing over something.
Yeah, no, I think I totally agree with you. I'm not one of those people who can just think positively because I've spent like I have somewhere in my journal where it's like I spent an entire plane ride, like it was like a 5 hour plane ride, just like writing about something. And like it was not a positive thing to do for sure. Like here, it like starts here and it like
Oh my God.
it ends,
Oh my God.
it ends there.
Oh,
And
yeah,
so like that's like obsessiveness, but like negative. So like
yeah,
I
yeah,
where there, you know? So like I think I think it's important to know when to just like stop and like distract. Like it's really hard to know like when you should like deal with something directly and head on and you should totally distract yourself from it. It's not helpful anymore to keep dealing with it. You're not gaining anything. So like I think that's why it's like so difficult when you see things online, especially of like people are like, yo, you need to do this. If you're feeling sad or whatever, you need to do this. You need to do this. Like it's not like one size fits all. Like I think each person's really different when it comes to this type of stuff. Like and Harrison, like you said, like it's important to not judge people for what they do. Like if you see them making positive progress from it, you need to let them do what they're doing, you know? Like, I don't know.
No, yeah, I completely agree, especially like the social media aspect is, and it's like you scroll through reels and there are people that are telling you to do this one thing to cure sadness, treating it like it's a one size fit all. And I myself fall into that trap. Like I'll save like five of those reels and try them all once. Like I try like do it one time as soon as I see it, maybe do it the next day, never do it again. And it's obviously it's just for views and clicks and traction, but there's really like no one size fit all mechanism for people to deal with their mental health struggles. And it does feel like people are painting it online like that there is like a solution that people can offer you.